You. Okay, so I will share my lovely screen. Okay, hold on a second. Hopefully everyone can see that. All right, we good to go? Hopefully, thumbs up. Okay, oops, that always happens to me. Okay, so, all right, welcome everyone. My name is Katie Rampen and I am class of 86. And this is From Surviving to Thriving, 3 Keys to Empower You Beyond Breast Cancer. And as Natalie mentioned, this is kind of the Cliff Notes version. This is the like speed version of it because it's usually over an hour, but we'll jam it in here. Okay. So right at the top of here, I'm going to give you the 3 keys, or what I also like to call the 3 E's. These are the keys that will unlock your healing power. The first one is enlightenment, i.e. knowledge. Second one, empowerment, i.e. what it is to be your own advocate, how to be an advocate. And the third one is encouragement or support, how important it is and how to make sure you get the right support. So I do need to start and say with this lovely little disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I usually read this whole thing, but in the effort of time, I will just say this is not intended as medical advice. And of course, I encourage you to make any of your own healthcare decisions based on your judgment in partnership with a qualified healthcare professional. Next, I'd love you all to take a deep breath, get present to the moment, give yourself the present of being present for the next 30 minutes. Oh my God, that would be a long time. Because, I know your time's valuable, but so is your health. So, put aside multitasking for just this half hour so that you can really absorb this information and it could be really helpful to you. So an introduction here about me. I've worn a lot of different hats in my life. I've had sort of 3 different careers before this one. I started off actually as an actress. Then I became a publicist, and both of those careers got upstaged when I became a mother. I now have 2 wonderful young adults. And even that career, so to speak, the universe had a little bit of a different plan for me. So in 2012, I was diagnosed with my first breast cancer. And this, of course, was a complete shock to me, even though it actually does somewhat run in my family. At the time, I had what's called DCIS, ductal carcinoma in situ. That's basically considered stage 0. But then after the surgeries and whatnot, they found out that I also had what's called infiltrating ductal carcinoma, which is more like stage 1. How I treated that at the time is I had a double mastectomy and I went on tamoxifen drug therapy, which after 3.5 years, I had to go off of, and I'll talk, I think, a little bit more about that later. But the bottom line is, of course, like a lot of people, when you get a disease or whatnot, you start kind of researching it. You start looking into it. I did that and then some. I started watching documentaries, following doctors, following, other breast cancer survivors. And I came across so much information that I didn't feel like was readily out there that affects our health. And I thought, wow, this information needs to get out to the public. Moms need to know how to raise healthy kids. So I decided to found my own company in 2018, Katie's Healthy Families, with the mission to educate and empower families to live healthier lives and avoid illness. But then I, decided, well, I'm going to niche down a little bit and focus mostly on women and heal their breast cancer and prevent breast cancer recurrence in February of 2020. So I founded Kicking Breast Cancer with Katie. And the irony here is I actually wondered at the time if I could even have that name as a company, because I thought, well, I'm not actively going through breast cancer right now, but I just love the alliteration and I thought I'm sticking to it. Maybe not the best message to send out to the universe, because then just a month later in March of 2020, I was diagnosed with my second breast cancer, which I didn't really think was possible, honestly, because they'd sort of told me I was cured and I would never get breast cancer again. It could move to other parts of my body, but I couldn't get breast cancer. But anyway, after the pandemic, made things very difficult, but I did eventually get to treat that by having a lobectomy, And then I went on some drug therapy, including Lupron, which puts your ovaries into menopause so that you don't get as much estrogen. And then I also went on that letrozole. So, and I've been on and off those things over the course. But anyway, I won't go too much detail about my whole history because, again, this could be a whole thing in of itself. But with all of this information, I finally boiled it down into a 7-week course in 2021. And then last year, I started a membership, which is a support group, as well as a way to get this information ongoingly in your life, week in, week out. Okay, so to give you a little idea of where we're going today, you're in the right place if perhaps you're worried about getting breast cancer or breast cancer recurrence and you want to do everything in your power to prevent it. You don't know what your personal breast cancer risk is. You want to know what's the role that genetics and hormones play in breast cancer. What environments and lifestyle prevent breast cancer. How can I safely monitor my breast health? And maybe you're wondering, what does it look like to advocate for yourself or a loved one? How do you get to a healing plan that's in alignment with your values? And finally, I think as humans, we don't just want to survive, we want to thrive. So the first key I'm going to go into is enlightenment or knowledge. And we heard that saying growing up, what you don't know can't hurt you. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not true. What you don't know absolutely can hurt you. And what I discovered is I like to teach people not only what you know that you don't know. For instance, you may know you don't know a lot about breast cancer, but you know that you don't know that, and you can go research it and find out. But I also teach people what they don't know that they don't know. So if you don't know something, you don't have a choice in the matter, right? And for instance, you might be living a certain way, I grew up in a household where drinking daily was commonplace, right? Or I didn't know that alcohol and breast cancer had a link. I didn't know that sugar, and breast cancer had a link. I didn't know there were so many toxic things in my home and in my environment that I thought were safe that actually lead to disease. So these things, if you don't know them, you're kind of stuck. And then I boiled down 3 things that you need to know to prevent breast cancer and recurrence. The first one is, what is your risk? Is breast cancer genetic? Secondly, what lifestyle choices affect breast cancer? And thirdly, what are the safest ways to monitor your breast health? So let's start with your risk. You've probably heard the statistic, it hasn't changed. 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer in their lifetime. But as of 2021, breast cancer is now the most commonly diagnosed cancer in the world. And I'm looking to change that figure. It's only second to lung cancer. Now, what puts you in a higher risk? If you have a relative with breast cancer or ovarian cancer, if you're of Ashkenazi Jewish descent, and or if you're overweight. Those are 3 factors that'll push you into the next category. Now, also, if you've had breast cancer ever in your life, then you are at risk of developing a new or recurrent breast cancer. I'm here to tell you that no treatment will truly cure it. It's a lifelong journey, and it's best that you look that way, because a lot of women are really shocked when they get it again. They're like, wait, I thought I'm done. No, it's not a once and done thing. So as with any disease, you really need to do is look to find the root of what might have caused it and not just treat the symptoms. Okay, so is breast cancer genetic? Well, you might be surprised to learn that just breast cancer is less than 10% genetic. I've even seen numbers go as low as 1%, 5%, but 10% is a very safe number. So it's definitely less than 10%. So this is good news, folks, because it means that you have control in the matter, right? It's not just what you're born with. It's not just dumb luck. You actually have a say in the matter of whether or not you get this or not. Now, the bad news about this statistic is, even if it doesn't run in your family, it doesn't mean you're not going to get it, right? Because again, people are surprised. How did I get breast cancer? It doesn't run in my family. Yeah, because it's not mostly genetic. And the good news is, even if you are in a family where it runs in your family, it doesn't mean that you're going to get it either. How is that true? Well, something called epigenetics. So epigenetics is the study of how your behaviors and the environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. So while you can't change your DNA, your genes can actually be turned on and turned off. So the key now is learning how to downregulate or turn off the bad genes and upregulate or turn on the good genes. How do we do that? Well, guess what? Your lifestyle choices matter. So I'm here to tell you, you can absolutely reduce the risk of future disease by following what I call my 7 simple steps. And I'm going to share this PDF with you at the end of our presentation. It's a really quick read. I made it that way on purpose. It's like 7 steps, 7 pages. It'll probably take you 7 minutes to read it. But if you start implementing these 7 steps, wow, what a difference it could make. All right, we're going to go through each of these. And I will say that this slide right here, this is a masterclass all of its own. And in fact, then this is the bulk of my course, which I teach over 7 weeks. And then now that's in my thing. So way too much to cover in like 5 minutes, but here we go. The first one is to drink plenty of clean water. Our bodies are made up of 80% water. So, and it is the way that we detoxify, we clean our systems. So you want to make sure you're getting enough water, and a good number for that is you take your body weight, divide it by 2, and that's the amount of ounces you should be getting every day. When I say clean, now I'm talking about, preferably filtered water. I personally use a reverse osmosis remineralizer, but you don't have to be that. Doesn't have to be that fancy. It could be a Berkey water system, or a filter or a pitcher or something. The main thing here to know is that a lot of people think that bottled water is safer. No, actually it's not, because bottled water has 0 regulation on it. So you don't know really what's in that bottle. And secondly, it's usually in plastic, and plastic, especially if it heats up, the plastic can leach into your water, making it toxic. So make sure you get plenty of the clean water. Number 2, eat clean whole foods. You've heard of the grocery store Whole Foods? Well, what are whole foods? Whole foods are just that. They're foods that are in their whole form. They're unprocessed. They come from nature. Think produce, fruits and vegetables, grains and whatnot, with no additives, right? You want to think the outside of your grocery store. And then when I say clean, you preferably want to eat organic. Why? Because if you eat organic, you're eliminating a lot of the toxins that are sprayed on our produce, like things like glyphosate. You're avoiding GMOs, genetically modified organisms. So, and it's hard to figure all that out. So the best thing we got going is organic. And I will say Environmental Working Group, which is also on my handout, great way to find out more about this and to realize if you don't have a budget to get all organic, what things you should focus on your organic budget with. Okay, number 3, get daily exercise. Again, the guidelines keep changing, but the bottom line is you need to move your body every single day, right? The lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like our heart to do the circulatory system. The lymphatic system is actually, again, how we detoxify, right? You've heard of your lymph nodes. We have them all over our bodies. They're in areas of the bodies that move, your joints usually, because they need movement to stimulate them, right? So you need to be walking, jogging, and you don't have to go to the gym. It can be things like parking further away from the grocery store. It could be taking the stairs, jumping on a mini trampoline, which is called a rebounder. Just even getting out and walking 20 minutes a day can boost your immune system. Make sure you're moving every single day. Okay, number 4, you want to get plenty of quality sleep. And plenty, you want to get the quantity in, right? Which I'll just say it's about 7.5 hours for most adults. But also you want to get quality sleep. You want to be sleeping in a cool, dark, quiet room. Cover up and get rid of all the electronics out of your bedroom. Your cell phone, a lot of people have it plugged in next to their head. Make sure you put it on airplane mode at night so that you don't have the EMFs, signals going and coming all day long, right next to you, all evening long, at nighttime, next to your head, because it's really can disrupt your sleep. And your sleep is, again, when your body is healing, right? It's repairing, it's healing. Super important. If you're not getting enough sleep, your immune system is going to be compromised, and that over time is going to lead to disease. Number 5, live in a clean home. I put clean in quotes here because yes, it is important that you have a clean space because mold and dust can be very toxic. Well, mold is toxic, period, but dust can be toxic as well. But I'm also really what I'm referring to here is clean as in, again, there's a lot of toxic substances in our homes, unbeknownst to us. A lot of things emit toxic chemicals. So you need to be aware of them and you need to start switching them out for cleaner alternatives. The good news is so many clean alternatives abound now, from our, our beauty products to our cleaning products, to your furniture, to your mattresses. OMG, when I found out what was in traditional mattresses, yikes. And that's you're sleeping on it. Again, this is something I work with people on, but super important to learn about this and clean up your home environment. Your home is your haven. Number 6, detoxify and nourish your minds. Okay, it's really important to reduce your stress and increase your happiness. We are living in an age where we're basically in what's called fight or flight mode 24/7, which means that, your body doesn't know the difference of whether, you need to run from a saber-toothed tiger or, you've got a deadline and a meeting tomorrow, right? Our bodies interpret it the same way, and it pushes out cortisol. And cortisol, if you get too much of it in your bloodstream all the time, you get adrenal fatigue, and then eventually as well, your immune system is going to be affected and disease starts to happen. So really important. I've got a lot of tools on my handout about how you can do this with mindfulness, meditation, gratitude practice, breathing exercise, yoga, lots of great tools out there today. I love my Insight Timer app. Oh my gosh, great thing. So many apps out there now. But anyway, it's very important you take care of yourself this way. And finally, practice good hygiene. Which includes our dental care, right? Our teeth are connected to the meridians in our body. Very important that we take care of our dental hygiene. Okay, what are the safest ways to monitor your breast health? All right, you might be a little surprised at the order of this list, but the top 4 on this category are all completely safe, non-toxic ways to monitor your breasts. You may be surprised that mammograms are at the bottom. Is the most toxic, but I'll get to that in a second. But really, I really want to stress to take matters into your own 2 hands. Really important that you get familiar with your breasts. You know what normal feels like. Really, nobody but you can do this. And even if you do the second thing on this list, which I recommend, which is to get clinical exams by your gynecologist every year, there are 364 days a year that your breast can change, right? It can change very rapidly, even though it takes years to develop breast cancer. As in my case, I found my second breast cancer lump and I was being followed very closely by my oncologist. I saw her every 6 months at that point. And she didn't detect it, I did. So again, that's, if you are, now if you're premenopausal, I recommend you do it. You want to do it about a week after your period. But if you're postmenopausal, pick a date. I say the first of every month or whatever it is, put a reminder in your calendar and check your girls, as I call them, every single month. Another thing you can do are thermograms. Thermograms, they've got a bad rap now, but basically they were approved back in the 80s. It's infrared imaging. And actually thermograms can detect breast cancer activity long before they would show up on a mammogram and long before you could feel a lump. Partly because what shows up as a hot spot is activity. The first thing breast cancer will do is get a blood supply going, and that shows up as activity in a hot spot. Now, you can't detect if you have breast cancer that way per se definitively. In fact, even ultrasounds, MRIs, and mammograms can't. You will probably have to get a biopsy if something suspicious is found. But it's a safe way to detect if something's going on. And then if there is, you move to the next step and go to one of these other tests. Ultrasounds, again, great. Sonography, they use sound waves, totally harmless to your body. But the problem there is sometimes insurance makes you do a mammogram before you can get an ultrasound, which is unfortunate. But they're a great tool. MRIs, they are also completely safe if you do them without what's called contrast. But in the case of breast cancer, If they think there's something suspicious, they're going to want to do it with contrast so they can get a better, they can better detect it. Unfortunately, what they have to do is they have to put galadium into your bloodstream. That's a heavy metal, so it's toxic to your system. So again, you don't want to do these willy-nilly. They're also very expensive. Your insurance is not probably going to let you just do an MRI unless you're high risk. But it is a way, if you've had breast cancer, I do recommend that that's a good screening tool. Especially, in someone like my case, I can't even do a mammogram, even if I wanted to, because I have breast implants now. So lastly are the mammograms. What they are, in case you didn't realize it, is they're x-rays. So the recommendations keep changing, but I would say to use them judiciously after age 50. I think now the recommendations may be every 2 years after age 50. But earlier if you're at a higher risk. So again, this is the main thing I want to say with mammograms. October drives me nuts when it's like the big messaging is get your mammograms. No, mammograms are not for every woman. It's individualized care, and you should, look at the pros and cons outweigh, make sure the risks outweigh the rewards, and talk to, a coach, cancer coach, and or a doctor about it to see if it's right for you. Okay, another thing I wanted to quickly share is something called My Breast Friend. I have a little model here. This is actually what they developed to teach clinicians how to do a breast exam. And it basically, you learn how to feel different size lumps at different depths of your breast, because they can happen at all different levels. So if you want to learn a little bit more about it, because again, that's part of the problem is we don't know how to safely examine our breasts. You can check it out here on my website. So this is not meant to scare you, but I do want to, part of my mission is to just educate women that breast cancer screenings can cause cancer. Here I have a list of radiation of these different screenings from least exposure to most. If you, are on any kind of aromatase therapy, those often affect your bones. And so they may ask you once you have breast cancer to get a baseline scan, a bone density scan, and then get one later on. The good news about that is there's not a whole lot of radiation there. So they're pretty safe to get. Again, you just don't want to do, a whole bunch of them. X-rays, depending on what part of your body they're X-raying, have different levels of radiation. Mammograms tend to be higher radiation than most X-rays, again, depending on the organ you're X-raying. Bone scans then goes up quite considerably more. And finally, our PET and CT scans. So all of these tools are wonderful tools. Don't get me wrong, they're wonderful. Do they in and of themselves cause cancer? No. However, you don't want to be doing these tests willy-nilly because there are risks involved. So you need to know that and, just plan accordingly, and don't just be asking for these tests, or doing them all the time. Okay. Next, I want to tell you that breast cancer treatments can cause cancer. Yeah, again, this kind of shocks people. But radiation, chemotherapy, and drug therapies, think about it. Think about the symbol that goes with them. They are toxic. They kill cancer, but they kill a lot more than cancer, right? So I want you just, again, take that with a grain of salt. But you got to know when you start advocating for yourself and what, feels right to you, that there are risks involved even with breast cancer treatments. Tamoxifen and aromatase inhibitors, I put here the side effects, because again, this is often really downplayed, but there are quite a few of them, and your quality of life is also super important. So everybody reacts differently. We'll get to that in a moment, but I just wanted you to be aware, that this is the reality of these things. And finally, since most breast cancers are estrogen positive, they are now not recommending hormone replacement therapy. In fact, even birth control pills, not such a great idea. But something called BHRT, bioidentical, that might be okay. That's sort of a natural plant-based form of hormone replacement therapy. But again, you need to talk with your doctor about this stuff to make an informed decision. All right, here's some good news. That was sort of the bad news. Here's the good news. Your hormones do not cause cancer. If that's case, think about it, every woman on the planet would have breast cancer or cancer. However, you say, but wait, I hear, yes, many breast cancers are fed by estrogen or estradiol. But what we need to be aware of is all the xenoestrogens in our environment. Xenoestrogens are foreign estrogens. They're substances that are close enough in molecular structure to estrogens, so they bind to the estrogen receptor sites and have some bad outcomes. Now, some of the sources of these are things like plastics. I mentioned the water in the water bottle, right? There's an example. Pesticides, all the pesticides in our foods these days, chemicals on our products, again, back to that, and in our water systems. So again, the key is to get rid of all the false estrogens and not worry so much about our natural ones. And there's also good news here. You can manage your estrogens naturally. All right, let's get to key number 2, my favorite, empowerment. Okay, learning how to be your own advocate. The best advocate for your health and well-being is, of course, you. And it's sometimes hard to do, but super important. And every body is different, and every breast cancer journey is unique. So, and again, when I said a moment ago, those different side effects, everybody responds differently to treatment. So don't freak out and look at that. I mean, some people go, oh God, I don't want to go on this. You don't know how you're going to react to a certain drug or treatment until maybe you try it. So, you know, don't be looking next door. The key here, again, is individualized care. We're looking for you to advocate for yourself, to make sure you're not just getting, you know, what's called the standard of care, but that you're getting treatment that's specifically right for you. Okay, because that's really the key. So how do you figure out what that treatment might be or what's right for you? Well, it's kind of simple and not so simple, which is trust your gut. You've heard that expression. You know, you have, you know, your gut reaction and whatnot. Your gut, as it turns out, is your second brain. So it's super important to follow your intuition when you choose a treatment path. You know, your mind and body actually work together as one. And so in that regard, I will say, you know, if you feel that you're doing something that's going to heal you or that feels right to you, I will argue, and not only argue, I've seen it over and over again, the examples that it does happen that way. It will work for you. However, if there's something that doesn't feel in alignment with you, like, ooh, like that just, I don't like that. That doesn't sound right to me. You know, then it might actually harm you, right? I will give an example. And chemotherapy is a perfect example. For some people, it's like, ooh, that's toxic. You know, I couldn't possibly do that. Even though, you know, it might help them, but they don't feel that way. But on the other side, you know, I know some women that they visualize this healing liquid going into their body, you know, acting like Pac-Man and gobbling up the cancers. You know, that might then actually work in that way. There's so many stories of people, and The Placebo Effect by Joe Dispenza. I strongly recommend you read that book, whether or not you have breast cancer or you're worried about it, because it's an incredible book. The man is a scientist. He turned his own healing, miraculous healing, into a lifelong journey of researching this stuff on a very highly scientific level. And he's also doing this amazing stuff. When I talked about turning on and off and regulating genes, like working right now with meditations and intention and actually, you know, changing our biology. It's pretty out there stuff, but it's like he's really impressive about making it very much scientific. So I recommend you that book. But again, that's along the lines of, again, if you know, took a sugar pill, but you really think this thing is going to help you, and it does, right? So you got to remember your mind and body work together, and also trusting your gut. If you have a feeling about something, I know a woman once, she, you know, they biopsied her lump in her breast, and they said it wasn't, you know, it was said it was benign, but she didn't feel right about it, and she just wanted it out. She said, no, I'm going to have surgery, take it out. They took it out after the fact. They found out that it was cancer. So again, trust your gut on this stuff. I mean, really. Okay, next, Radical Remission by Kelly Turner, another great book. She basically went around the country and the world and basically interviewed all these people with their radical remissions and that healed themselves from cancer to find out what are they all doing that's alike. What's similar here? What can we learn from this? Great book. And finally, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Wonderful woman. Really about how important self-love is and self-care, and how you can heal yourself. All right, the next thing you're going to need to do is create a healing team. And it's really important you find one that listens to your questions and concerns. This is a team, this is a list of kind of who you're going to need. An oncologist is someone that is a specialist in cancer. If you decide to remove your lump or bump, you'll need a surgeon. If you want to do reconstructive surgery, you're going to need a plastic therapy. Therapist, yeah, it's on the list. I really recommend you get a therapist or a cancer coach. Mine helped me tremendously with deciding whether I wanted to do a lumpectomy or a double mastectomy. And finally, a cancer community. Super important that you have that. Oh, wow, we're running out of time. Okay, so the last key, we got to get to it here, is encouragement or support. I'm here to tell you life is a team sport. And we humans are social creatures. You really do need a strong support system to thrive. Why do you need a supportive community of like-minded women? Well, studies, I've seen a lot of them, are showing that women who have a supportive community have better outcomes and live longer than those who don't. And a lot of this too is perceived. So if you feel like you're really well supported, then that helps as well. But when looking for these communities, I want to say there's a lot of groups out there. There's a lot of Facebook groups and whatnot. But if you can find an intimate group that you can meet with regularly, in which you can be vulnerable, share your common concerns and successes, it's so much more empowering. I have a list here of a couple of organizations in Los Angeles: Magnolia House, Living Beauties, Cancer Support Center, and of course, American Cancer Society. All great organizations. I'm also going to be putting out a resource list. I'm going to add it to my link tree where you can find all of these organizations. So I'm asking you today to ask yourself, do you feel fully supported? Are you struggling with family and friends, or maybe the lack thereof, maybe you don't have a lot of them, that aren't supporting you? Are you struggling with doctors that don't listen to you? And lastly, do you not trust your own gut and your instincts? Because all of these things are going to be super key in your ongoing health. When I say what lies ahead, I'm going to tell you that any healing journey that you go on is going to be a roller coaster, and you're going to need a community to be there for you through the good times and the bad. Sometimes all you need is a safe space. You share your experiences and your feelings, and then your healing can continue. I've seen this happen over and over in my communities. A place where you can show up as you are, and you're going to be acknowledged, loved, and encouraged. All right, last couple thoughts I want to leave you with. One, worrying will never change an outcome. So don't do it, right? They say if you worry about something and you can do something about it, do it. Otherwise, they say, don't worry, be happy. And finally, self-care is healthcare. Self-care is not selfish. It's non-negotiable, i.e., you got to put it in your calendar. You got to do it. It's more important than anything else. Remember that when you get on an airplane, they say put the mask over your nose and mouth first, and then help your child or your elderly or whoever, anybody else, right? You got to take care of yourself first so you can take care of the rest of the people in your life. And how do you do that? You need to take care of the whole you: mind, body, and spirit. All right, so questions. I don't know if we have much time because I'm a little over, but basically, you can reach out to me. Here are my resources: the 7 Simple Steps to a Healthier You guide, and my newsletter, social media, and whatnot can all be found on my link tree. And then you can even just Google Katie Rampen and link tree and you'll find it. Here's my email. And finally, a special offer to you all, a free 30-minute breast health empowerment session. You can go to my Calendly link. Again, I suppose you could Google the 2 names and you'll probably find it. And you can find me that way. So thank you guys so much for your attention tonight. I know we all have a lot going on. I will stop the share here. And yeah, if there's any, questions or anything I can answer, yeah, then feel free to put them in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Katie. That was so informative and I learned a lot. I'm sure everyone here also did. If anyone has any questions, they can drop it in the Q&A right window now. I did put into the chat Katie's link tree, her email, and that Calendly link that she mentioned. But like she said, yeah, you can Google Katie Rampen and you'll pretty much find everything you're looking for pretty quickly. But doesn't seem like we have any questions. So thank you so
Okay,
much,
great.
Katie, for
Thank you so
everyone.
much. I know, like I said, it's so hard. There's so much I always want to share, and it's like, how do
Yeah.
you, how do
No,
I share, decade of what I've learned in 30 minutes? But I just feel
yeah.
like this will get you at least on the right path. And yeah.
But we
Okay.
have,
Yeah.
yeah, they said, thank you so much. Great presentation, really informative. I learned a lot. So glad you're doing so well.
Yes.
And also just for everyone to know, in case there was someone here that you, or someone not here that you wish could have enjoyed Katie's presentation, this is going to live on the Marlborough YouTube channel, which you can access through the alumni page on marlborough.org. So if you go over to marlborough.org, click on alumni at the top, and then go to Aiming High and Violet seminars, you'll be able to find this recording there by the end of the week. Thank you
Wonderful.
so much,
Great. Thank you
Katie.
so much, everybody. I really enjoyed this. This is, as you know, I'm super passionate about this. So I just, yeah, I just want you all to be empowered and to take care of yourselves and your loved ones. So
Absolutely. It's such important work. Thank you for doing what you
thank
do.
you. Thank you all.
Have a good night, everyone. Thanks again,
Good
Kate.
night. Bye-bye.